of Carson McCullers' The Hardest and Lonely Hunter. So, this is the last part we're going to do today. So, he's talking to his wife. They're having an argument, this the cafe owner, sorry. So, there he goes. He says, they're arguing because he's supporting this alcoholic person, and she thinks he should throw them out. I know spongers and Blounce not one, Beef said. Myself, I don't know so well, but I'm not that kind of a thief. Calmly, Beef put down the suitcase on the steps outside. The air was not so stale and sultry in the room as it was downstairs. He decided to stay for a short while and douse his face with cold water before going back. I told you already what I'll do if you don't get rid of that fellow for good tonight. In the daytime, he takes them naps at the back, and then at night, you feed him dinners and beer. For a week now, and he hasn't paid 1 cent. And all this wild talking and carrying on will ruin any decent trade. You don't know people, and you don't know real business, Beef said. The fellow in question first came in here 12 days ago, and he was a stranger in the town. The first week, he gave us $20 worth of trade, 20 at the minimum. And since then, on credit, Alice said, 5 days on credit, and so drunk, it's a disgrace to the business. And besides, he's nothing but a bum and a freak. I like freaks, Beef said. I reckon you do. I just reckon you certainly ought to, Mr. Brannan, being as you're one yourself. He rubbed his bluish chin and paid her no attention. For the first 15 years of their married life, they had called each other just plain Beef and Alice. Then in one of their quarrels, they had began calling each other Mr. and Mrs., and since then they had never made it up enough to change it. I'm just warning you, you'd better not be there when I come down tomorrow. Beef went to the bathroom, and after he had bathed his face, he decided that he would have time for a shave. His beard was black and heavy, as though it had grown for 3 days. He stood before the mirror and rubbed his cheek meditatively. He was sorry he had talked to Alice. With her, silence was better. Being around that woman always made him different from his real self. It made him tough and small and common as she was. Beef's eyes were cold and staring, half concealed by the cynical droop of his eyelids. On the 5th finger of his calloused hand there was a woman's wedding ring. The door was open behind him, and in the mirror he could see Alice lying in the bed. Listen, he said, the trouble with you is that you don't have any real kindness. Not but one woman I've ever known had this real kindness I'm talking about. Well, I've known you to do things no men in this world would be proud of. I've known you to. Oh, maybe. It's curiosity, I mean. You don't ever see me or notice anything important that goes on. You never watch and think and try to figure anything out. Maybe that's the biggest difference between you and me, after all. Sam. Alice was almost asleep again, and through the mirror he watched her with detachment. There was no distinctive point about her on which he could fasten his attention, and his gaze glided from the pale brown hair to the stumpy outline of her feet beneath the cover. The soft curves of her face led to the roundness of her hips and thighs. When he was away from her, there was no one feature that stood out in his mind, and he remembered her as a complete, unbroken figure. The enjoyment of a spectacle is something you have never known, he said. Her voice was tired. That fellow downstairs is a spectacle, all right. And a circus too. But I'm through putting up with him. Hell, that man don't mean anything to me. He's no relatives or buddy of mine. But you don't know what it is to store up a whole lot of details and then come upon something real. He turned on the hot water and quickly began to shave.